Good evening and welcome to the Pac-12 Chat Show Live here on the Voice of College Football channel. I'm Tony here as always with Tim and Chris, and we have two very special guests tonight that we're excited for. We've got Jack and Sam, better known as the former OSKI and the former Stanford Tree. Guys, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having us, Tony.
All right. Well, hey, as we get into it here, why don't you guys introduce yourselves and tell folks a little bit about you guys and your background. We've got OSKI and the Tree. Pretty special VIP guests.
You're the eldest, Jack. You should go first.
Thank you, Sam.
Jack,
hey,
you want to go first?
Tell
us about you.
Sure thing.
In the official OSKI cardigan, by the way.
I know. I was saying earlier, it doesn't get to come out too often where it's a socially appropriate thing to wear around as much as it should be. So got to take advantage of it where I can. As was mentioned, I was an OSKI back in 2017 when I was at Cal. Have been a huge Cal football fan my entire time at the school. To be honest, actually didn't know much about Pac-12 before I ended up out of Berkeley. So maybe not as well seasoned and soaked in Pac-12 tradition as some folks might be in the audience or the rest of the folks on the panel here, but really excited to be here, and thanks for having me.
And then, so you finished at Cal, and then what did you do after Cal? Because you just finished something interesting, I understand.
I did. So actually, Sam and I know each other quite well. We just finished business school together out at MIT, and I'm back personally now in the Bay Area, working at a startup, and just happy to be back out in the land of Pac-12 football once again, not dealing with late Pac-12 after dark kicks and all that good stuff on the East Coast anymore.
You mean you don't like watching games till
That's awesome.
2 o'clock in the morning?
Well, welcome. We're glad to have you.
Like I do, and my wife hates. Yeah, that makes sense.
Exactly, Chris. And thank you, Tony.
Great. I'll kick it off.
All right, Mr. Tree.
Thank you. I went to Stanford. I was the Tree in 2016 to 2017. That was the year. That was one of, let's say, 10 years the Tree got suspended and the band got suspended, so we had some fun. But I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia. Went to Stanford, graduated 2018. I worked in Hollywood for a little bit as a product manager for a streaming service, and then met Jack at MIT for business school, and we just graduated. Now I'm in Houston, actually working for a sports ticketing company called Eventellect, so still within the sports world, trying to make Stanford a client, but not yet the case. I don't have as much pull as I thought I would, but give me time.
Tell us about Channel Tree Sports.
Oh, right. And that's the handle you see here. So a buddy of mine and I, we started a Stanford sports website called Channel Tree Sports. You can check us out, channeltreesports.com. And we just cover Stanford. We cover the football team, men and women's basketball team, occasionally the baseball team. Admittedly, we originally created the site when Rule of Tree, a similar website that Vox SB Nation used to run, sort of shut down after a new California law passed. So we sort of filled the vacant space there. So we've been traveling to tournaments, 3, 4, 5 times a year. Went to the College World Series a couple years ago. Went to 2 women's Final Fours, including the San Antonio one where the women's team took it home. So that is my current, biggest lifeline to Stanford sports. And we tweet a lot. And we also have a good rapport with the Tree Twitter account, which I also highly recommend following. It's just beautiful vomit of nonsense.
At the Stanford Tree is definitely one of the great accounts.
At the Stanford Tree, we couldn't get. We got DA, the Stanford Tree. That makes it legit.
Who is the Stanford Tree? Did you ever find out?
It was another tree like 5 years, 6 years earlier, and they forgot their password. They had
forgot their password. Twitter account went away.
What's up for debate is if it's actually just Sam tweeting back and forth to himself.
Hey guys,
the whole time,
I'll never tell.
Don't Don't laugh because there's a lot of Big 12 fans who do that with multiple accounts.
They've got
all
some
right. So,
theories.
guys, today was a big. It's very true. They do. Today was a big news day. First of all, actually, thank you to Larry Pilgrim for the super chat saying "Go Utes." Definitely go Utes, Larry. Guys, today big news. We got Pac-12 Media Days coming up this week, and the narratives are getting really, really interesting. Coach Prime is not going to be there, but Colorado came out with a little bit today and tried to shut down the Big 12 rumors, pointing out that they intend to stay members of the Pac-12. They expect to have a big discussion tomorrow on media rights with the president. The CEO group is meeting. And the chancellor said CU's goal is to stay within the Pac-12 and have a media deal coming up shortly. And I believe the presidents and chancellors of the Pac-12 are together on that. And then the Colorado chancellor pointed out that he has not had any direct negotiations with Brett Yormark or with the Big 12. So what do you guys think? Does this sort of start to put to rest some of the nonsense we've been hearing?
I mean, I absolutely think so. But how many times does a chancellor have to come out and say that Big 12 defection rumors are false before people start getting the picture? Is this like the third chancellor who's had to say something? So
I think it's about the eighth. Yeah.
Eighth, yeah.
Including he's already said it before too.
Yes, this is a repeat of an earlier statement. But I will say this: the statement says that we'll have a media deal shortly, and so that calls into question the veracity of the whole thing.
What is shortly?
That's what I'm saying. It's been a year. It's been a year, George.
Crazy internet here tonight.
It also just seems like the type of thing.
Hey, what do you guys think about the? Have you guys? I don't know if you guys have seen. There are articles already questioning: is DeStefano lying? Oh, did you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry, my internet is going haywire right now.
All good. It seems like the type of thing that until it happens or until there's a media right deal, it'll be kind of continually caught in this like, will they, won't they? Everyone thinking. I feel like there's always going to be a corner of the internet that's speculating on it and wants to see it happen until something's inked. It might be a little more legally binding.
Tony,
what about the other big piece of news today? So go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
I was going to say he can say whatever he wants to say as chancellor, but, you know, we all know it goes down at the super secret board meetings that they have every week and a half.
Oh, yeah. Can't forget about those.
It's true. All right. Other big news, as you guys know, Stanford's president, Mark Tessier-Levine, was part of the Pac-12's executive board. We've been saying on this show for quite some time, thanks to amazing reporting from the Stanford Daily, that we thought his days were numbered, and today they ended. So since we've got Channel 3 Sports here, what's up with the big news from Palo Alto?
Yeah, Tony, I got to say, I've been watching this story for a while. Really excited that it happened. I grew up with, when I was at school, we had President Hennessy. He was just a fantastic president, and he understood the school really well. He had that sort of entrepreneurial spirit, that like irreverence that I think Stanford really is all about. I'll give you an example. When I was the tree, or when I was trying out to be the tree, for those of you who don't know, you have to do, you can look, it's on Wikipedia, on the Stanford Tree Wikipedia, but basically you have to do 2 weeks of weird stunts to earn your spot as the tree. There's only one a year. And so your predecessor watches all the stunts and selects their successor. So one stunt I did was I buried myself in a pot for 48 hours in our open plaza. It was cold, but a blast. We can talk a little bit more about that later, but President Hennessy would visit me every morning at like 5 a.m. on his way to the office. I would be like half naked, shivering, buried in a pot. People have drawn on me and my face is red from everybody just slapping me relentlessly. And he'd just stop by and say, "Sam, how's this whole thing going? Keep it up." And he'd go to his office. And he was just this really cool president who kind of got the whole spirit of Stanford. And then MTL comes in and he's just this stuffy academic. And it turns out he's not even that much of an academic because his scrutiny for academic papers was really, really loose. For those of you who haven't followed this closely, though, I think it's important to acknowledge, one, like you said, the Stanford Daily had some incredible reporting. But the initial claim that he purposefully falsified data, they found that was not the case. He wasn't purposefully misleading, but he was really lax with his research standards and lax enough to be punished. And that's what happened, what got him in the end. So I'm excited for the next era. I think the Stanford Hates Fun train is going to exit, and we're going to have a shift, a well-needed shift in vibes. So I'm pumped.
It's good news. And the other piece of good news, we got a lot of Ute fans usually always in the audience. And I think this is really good news for our Ute fans. So as you guys know, and we've talked about this in the show before, the Pac-12 is run by the CEO group, which is now the 10 remaining presidents and chancellors. And of that, there's a rotating system of the very, very powerful executive committee, which is made up of the 3 senior most CEOs who haven't had the role. As you guys know, when Chancellor Chris was retiring, Bobby Robbins from Arizona skipped her to join. And now with Mark Tessier-Levine leaving, we expect that Utah President Taylor Randall is next in line, unless he somehow declines for some reason. He probably will take over that slot. And then we will be shifted to having Washington State and the Washington State president, who is the current Pac-12 chair, was formerly president of the whole NCAA. So, I mean, he's chairman of the NCAA. So he's exactly a good person to have that role. We'll have Arizona, and then we'll have Utah. Guys, I think this sets us up pretty well for the next couple of years. What do you think?
Oh, you, Jack, you take this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great slate of schools to have in charge. I think really, like we were talking about too, just a unified front will be doing us pay dividends for the Pac-10, Pac-12, whatever it'll end up being. I think to your point, just the credibility of Schultz is really great. Nice to see Utah in there too, and just how much credibility and recognition the program's gotten lately to have their interests, I think helps strengthen the entire pack there. Definitely a little bummed to have Cal passed over, but I think everything that Chancellor Chris has done for the university internally at Cal is more than enough in our perspective to forego that opportunity in the CEO group for the moment here.
Well, I mean, the whole conference was founded by Cal. So, and in fact, speaking of that, I don't know if you guys know, speaking of Cal, Dr. Seaborg, who was the Cal chancellor, who was the guy who founded the conference. Do you guys know, is he a character in Oppenheimer? Has anybody seen it yet? Has anybody seen previews of it yet? No?
Comes out tomorrow.
Okay, well, I'm curious because a bunch of the very core key founders of the PAC were really heavily involved with the Manhattan Project because the University of California ran that. I mean, Oppenheimer was a Cal professor. So it'll be interesting to see. We may have some football tie-ins. I'm going to try to see it this weekend, and we'll find out.
There was quite a bit of shooting on
it'll be kind of interesting. All right. Yeah, I heard they did a lot of shooting on campus. So that'll be kind of cool. But guys, all right. So now we have special guests here. Talk to us about what it was like. Jack, so we heard a little bit about the tree. How did you get to be OSKI?
So unfortunately, I can't talk too much about this. We're not as public and open about our process as the tree is. We're not planting ourselves on campus for 48 hours, doing anything crazy like that. But I happened to know a couple of the right people and right place, right time sort of thing, and happened my way into it. But it was definitely one of the most memorable experiences I've had in my life. And I will always say that the best job I'll ever have, despite how much I may ever love a current job I'm in, it never gets better than dressing up and running around and being part of the game and the fans and everything like that. I know that's probably not super satisfying to talk about the process, but not something.
Let me frame it a little bit differently for you, Jack. Tony, it's a secret club and you're not invited. It's like a very, right? It's like a society of sorts, right?
That's all right.
One way to put it. Yeah.
What do students know? Like,
Is there only one OSKI at a time, or is there like a posse?
The official phrase is there is only one OSKI.
Okay.
As far as what students know, I think it ranges. There are, as you've probably known across the internet, OSKI is beloved or feared by a lot of people for various reasons. But I think it's fairly disconnected from a lot of folks, and it tends to remain fairly in the shadows.
What about what was it like being on the sidelines? So we're gonna go through the schools in just a minute, but do you have a favorite and a least favorite of the schools that you got to see?
Yeah, I think for me, being around anything big game is just, there's nothing else like it. I would say either that or UCLA or SC. I think just between the California schools, there's so much energy and rivalry. Really friendship, but rivalry, I think, because everyone thinks they're so different, even though they're really more similar than they'd all would like to admit. It's such a unique atmosphere just to be involved in my opinion, and really think those are some of the most memorable ones, especially big games are, for us, I would say, pretty high stakes and high emotional commitment.
And were you guys in any bowls when you were there? Did you get to go to any?
Yeah, so I did not go to any bowls personally, so I missed out on that.
When you were there, like egregiously bad.
I became a Cal football fan through a 1-11 season, so I've always said it can't get much worse. It can only get one loss worse, to be specific. But definitely, we didn't get any bowls, although we did get like some fun on the road basketball games. Like I remember going up to Golden One Center when that first opened up for Sacramento Kings to do an opening game there against SDSU, which was a really cool experience. I think just a lot of those types of kind of showcase or more off the beaten path experiences. Sam, I'm sure you got similar stories. They're pretty unique and interesting situations to be in.
Yeah, you really do find
and
yourself.
the folks in the chat.
Go ahead,
Tom. Sorry.
No, you go. What were you going to say?
I was going to say to folks in the chat, and sorry, I have a weird internet lag. Jack is wearing the official OSKI cardigan. So to everybody joining us, that's pretty sweet. You got the official OSKI uniform. You do not get that very often.
Hard to find.
What about you, Sam? You went to some bowl games, didn't you?
Yeah, so tree is a 1-year position. You get it. Typically, you become tree middle sophomore year, and you do it till middle of your junior year. Frankly, there really is only one tree. That's not like a fun little quote we throw out there. And so during that year, I mean, I calculated during football season, it was 40 hours a week of just events. You do everything the band does when you're tree. So that's football, men and women's basketball, and women's volleyball. And then anything you do on campus, any birthday party for some kid in Palo Alto, any parade, any community event. So you rack up the hours. And so you really only can handle 1 year academically. So we did go to a bowl game my year. I was the year after the Christian McCaffrey Rose Bowl. We made it to the Sun Bowl, so we fell quite a bit. But the band got suspended in December, so we actually didn't get to travel for it. With the band, I got to go to the Rose Bowl. If anybody remembers, Stanford did a FarmersOnly.com show against Iowa. We made a giant, very dumb-looking cow. I was the butt of that cow, if you're familiar. So I got up to shenanigans outside of the tree at bowl games for sure. But yeah, no, there were a lot of just fun, weird places you ended up finding yourself. I traveled with the women's basketball team on their Final Four run in 2017. And, they told us, hey guys, pack your bags. We're going to Manhattan. And we all screamed. And then they said, Kansas, Manhattan, Kansas, home of the Kansas State Wildcats. So went to Manhattan, Kansas for a couple games. We went to Lexington, Kentucky. I took all my exams from a Lexington hotel room. Went to Dallas. Those were some weird, interesting times. And then, of course, just any trip to USC when I've got fans pouring beer on me and threatening my life. It was exhilarating.
Did we do that?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Honestly, my favorite USC hatred tradition is when you guys play the national anthem and at our field or at your field, your trumpet players will put their middle finger up as they walk by us, just like the pettiest thing during the national anthem, every time without fail. It's I don't know, it's the spice of life.
It's the spice of life. Is it good question from Gixer Squid asking, is the tree how is the tree selected? Is it an election? Because you plant yourself, and we heard from Jordan last year about his process. Like, how does that work? We know OSKI's secret, but you guys have a little bit of a little bit more of an open process.
I think the processes really reflect the spirits of the schools. OSKI's is this like gross government bureaucracy, and all of the truth behind it is buried in layers of useless bureaucrat, paperwork. Whereas the tree is something invented by students. Yeah, take that, Cal. The tree was invented by students in the 70s when there was no mascot. We were the Indians originally, and then the students voted that out, and it went a couple years without a mascot, and then the band made up the tree as a joke, and everyone loved it. It was just somebody's costume they made out of paper the night before, and then they kept wearing it to games, and they passed it on to somebody else, and they kept wearing it to games, and eventually what happened was a tradition was created where somebody would pick the next person to be the tree, and that selection process grew bigger and bigger. The result is, as I sort of alluded to earlier, a 2-week period of what I like to call self-hazing. You come up with weird things to do in public for the whole student body to see. You do those things, and then the person who is currently the tree picks their child unilaterally without any sort of advice or consent from a student council or the band or anybody else. And then the new kid gets to make their own costume, ideally one that is just a complete nightmare fuel. And as somebody in the chat mentioned, 2 front-facing eyes. That's an apex predator. Don't forget it. So that's how it happens. And we've had some crazy stunts. Again, I recommend the Wikipedia page, but like somebody got shot with a bulletproof vest on, allegedly. I'm going to say allegedly after all these. Somebody ate a vinyl record and pooped it into the San Francisco Bay, allegedly. Somebody recently allegedly played a game of Operation in which every time they buzzed the side of the Operation board game, they were then tased by a former tree. This is an idea that a kid trying out for tree came up with, and it was like a blast, and everyone thought it was hilarious, allegedly. So there's just a lot of creativity. We've seen tree houses, we've seen dunk tanks, we've seen somebody applied for a job in the Trump administration just to like turn it down, take the emails, tape them to their back, and play a game of darts on their body. I mean, it's just weird stuff, allegedly, but it's fun and goofy and strange. I guess the last one I'll mention is this one guy built a giant metal bowling ball that he put a seat inside. He welded this together. He strapped himself in. He made large paper mache bowling pins, and he had former trees bowl with his body to their heart's content. So there's just a lot of goofy, fun, free-spirited nonsense.
Now, this is your tree here, isn't it?
Yeah, you picked a great picture, and it's in front of OSKI, so I really appreciate that subtle nod.
Tell us about the inspiration for how you designed and like envisioned your tree different from the others, because yours is one of my favorites.
Thanks so much. Yeah, like I said, you have whoever the tree is can make whatever costume they want. I can share an article with you to tweet out later of like the making of the tree. It's a process. I had to learn how to sew. My friend he actually took a 2-unit class to weld the frame. But I grew up in Atlanta. We have magnolia trees there, southern magnolias. And so I wanted mine to be a southern magnolia. It's not pictured here, but I had big flowers that I'd put on for each game. And then my tree's name is Hugh. That is a reference not only to its many colors, but also to David Hughes, who was the man who came up with the golden spike that they pounded into the Transcontinental Railroad. And that was a marketing idea that Leland Stanford, the school's, the husband of the school's founder, or one of the founders of the school, came up with years and years ago. So he actually hammered in that golden spike. The spike's, I believe, in the Stanford Museum now. So I went for sort of a Gilded Age robber baron look with a gold tooth and like a monocle, a big old, weird mustache, which, God, that was so hard to sew. I took forever to make that mustache. But I think my favorite part of the tree, other than, I've got concert t-shirts there. You see on the left side to the eye, you see like a big, that's actually a painting that my friend made that I chopped up and turned into a leaf. And, but my favorite piece of the tree is there's a zipper behind the teeth, and you can stick your hand into it and you can operate a big pink tongue and just go lick children, which is typically an OSKI move, terrorizing children and getting on lists, but I did it occasionally.
And OSKI, tell us about your get up.
Yeah, so I mean, pretty standard year over year. I mean, I think the face and the head has been, God, it's got to be at least like 30 plus years. It's been pretty much the exact same thing.
Oh, it's older than that, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, well, so there's been different iterations of it that, like, if you look up like really old, like if you're over at Cal Memorial Stadium, they've got like kind of like a OSKI over time in some areas, and the original like paper mache head was probably one of the. Sam wants to talk about nightmare fuel. That's probably like whatever people were doing back in like the 30s, 40s. Like there was some crazy stuff going on with what they were making for mascots. But yeah, I'd say it's kind of what you see is what you get. You got a cardigan, some pants, and some gloves, the hat, or the head rather. I think the fun thing, like Sam mentioned, he had a big pink tongue. We have there's a little hole in the eye where we use to drink water because it gets pretty hot in there. And
Water.
Obviously, that straw could be used for a lot of things, but we ever only used it for water. So.
I've been to some alumni events and I've seen other things drank through that straw other than water.
Yeah, well, you know, like how you have like Noon or all those other like hydration drinks that change the colors of the liquid you're drinking now. It's really just colored water, some other flavoring in there sometimes, but no, it's a good time. Some really big shoes too.
Yeah, you do have the big. We don't have the big shoes in here.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, hey, let's have some fun for just a minute. We want to know what the Tree and OSKI think of the other Pac-12 schools and fan bases, and feel free to be as brutal as necessary. You can add in some good things if you want to, because you guys have seen all these schools. You guys have a perspective that nobody else has. So we want to know. Give us the lowdown. Talk to us about Arizona. What are the Wildcats like, Miss Wilma?
Well, just as a final comment on Jack's water funnel, I think that's so funny because the Tree gets breathalyzed before every football and basketball game, and it's just what a sharp contrast. If you don't blow a 0.0, you get sent back home.
Oh, we do too.
Oh, you do? Oh, well, good. Okay, cool. We have that in common.
That's why we drink water.
Right. To hydrate. It's great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, wasn't one of your predecessors arrested at Maples Pavilion?
Oh, yeah.
For disorderly conduct?
Okay, well, to be fair, like I think 5 trees have been arrested. One at the Fiesta Bowl for shooting a firework at a woman, but the one you're thinking of, Erin Lashnitz, who's now a veterinarian, she blew a .16 while on the field, on the court, and stealing cow banners and signs from students, and then got arrested on the court.
That's amazing.
Good stuff. Erin, you're great. Big fan. She's an icon.
That's awesome. Yeah. 52 Labs asking, can we ask questions? Sure, guys. If you have questions, chime them in the chat. We'll try to get them up to you. If you do a super chat, we'll make sure that they get them. We'll try to get them to them. But first of all right. So what do you guys think? What about Arizona?
So my personal opinion, best mascot threesome potential between Wilbur and Wilma. That's my first thought right off the bat. There is
good potential there.
Their dance team's the best in the pack. I've been to like 6 Pac-12 basketball tournaments. Their dance team is fire, other than the Stanford Dollies, of course. But and then their fan base travels for basketball like no other. They are like some of the most loud and obnoxious basketball fans I've ever had to deal with. That's my memory of them. What about you, Jack?
Yeah, I would emphasize the loud and just kind of, I don't want to say crazy, but definitely like they get rowdy for sure. I don't know what it is about Arizona, the state, but between them and ASU, there's always some voodoo magic going on. So I don't know quite what their fan bases are doing, but whenever people go in town for basketball or football games, it seems like they've got something crazy that the rest of us don't quite have figured out. Little scary to me.
What about ASU?
Sparky is near and dear to my heart after holding up the Stanford Hates Fun banner with the previous tree, Jordan, who was on the show. And then he was after that on Wheel of Fortune. Watch Wheel of Fortune. Check him out.
Did he win? I didn't see the episode.
I haven't seen it yet myself. I'm plugging it.
I want to see it.
I'm a fraud. But no, ASU fans, I'd say very similar, but like a little bit more ratchet than the Arizona fans. Like they go a little bit harder. They drink a little bit more. They're a little bit gruffer and rougher around the edges. That's my vibe. And they've offered me the most drinks of any franchise while I've been in the costume. So can't go wrong.
All right. You can't go wrong with that.
That's interesting to hear you say that they seem gruffer to you. I would actually flip-flop that between the two. I feel like Arizona, U of A has always been like rowdier and going a little harder whenever I've run into them. But I'd say they're pretty neck and neck. Similar, like Sam was saying, definitely some similar energy for sure.
All right. What about Cal fans from the Stanford perspective?
I got to say, like, we're more similar than we are different. As much crap as I've been giving Jack, and we'll continue to give him through the rest of our storied friendship. Big Game is so fun. Stanford has like a musical, a 2.5-hour original musical we write every single year, just trashing Berkeley. And I was in it my senior year. I played OSKI the Bear in it. The fun irony of it. There's so much pageantry in Big Game Week. It is such a blast. But at the end of the day, the students at Cal and the students at Stanford are, basically the same. And so, I mean, maybe fewer chandeliers at their tailgate, but like that's sort of the under the hood belief about Cal. What do you think, Jack?
I think I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. You're good, Tony. Go for it.
I was going to say that's one of the really neat things I think about the Pac-12 is that everyone's in, except for Colorado and Utah, who are sort of forced together. Everyone else is in pairs of rivals, and as much as they are your arch rival, all of the pairs have a lot in common.
Great point.
And it's why I always refer to UCLA sometimes as our partners in crime. There are nemesis. They're more of like a nemesis than like a hated enemy, except for that week when they are a hated enemy. But in general, like you have a lot in common. They really are kind of a nemesis. Well, we got a question here from NorCal Matt. NorCal Matt, thanks for helping support Mark and the channel. He wants to know, as it pops up, have you lived up to the 1986 band? My dad dragged me to the 86 Big Game just to see what they would do. Of course, Cal won. Is the 86 band in?
I don't have specific memories of the 86 band. I was -9 years old. But I will say this, like, I have opinions about where the band has gone in the last 5 years. I think it's gotten frustratingly tame and saddled with bureaucracy and sort of this liability culture that's affecting all colleges. I don't want to just like wave the "it was better in my day" flag, but like it does seem like there have been some significant changes. But since 1986, the Stanford band has done some awesome things. They did a field show at BYU where at the time, President Hennessy, that same president I mentioned earlier, his son dressed up as a groom and proposed to 5 brides on the field. And we talked about the sacred bond between a man and a woman and another woman and another woman. The polygamy show infamously got us banned from BYU. The Stanford band drove down to LA in the 90s during O.J. Simpson's trial and played the song She's Not There outside of the courthouse for 24 hours straight. Which, wow, bold. In 2000 and in 2016, I mean, the Iowa FarmersOnly.com field show made Iowans so mad that a state senator proposed a bill that said Stanford must apologize for their halftime show or else we will never work with them academically again. So I would say, like, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, we've lived up to the band's like spirit and hopefully like the 1986 band's standard to some extent.
When I think was a freshman, I think it was a couple of years after the OJ thing, and you guys actually, I don't know where they found that many white Ford Broncos, but it was when Stanford Stadium still had a track around it, and they just spent the entire halftime circling the track with white Ford Broncos chasing each other around the Stanford Stadium track.
Never forget.
Yeah. It's an interesting dynamic that, like, USC fans have with the Stanford band. Right. I don't know if you guys know this. Rice introduced themselves as in the Coliseum performing during the performance as saying, they call themselves the Mob, the Marching Owl Band. And they said, we're just like the Stanford band, but with a little bit of class.
Oh, sure.
And we
That's
laugh.
not too hard.
Yeah. What about moving on just a little bit here? What about Colorado? Did you guys both had Colorado in the conference when you were there?
Yep.
Did you meet Ralphie?
Did meet Ralphie, which was a pretty cool experience. I mean, that thing, it's just, I think that's one of the coolest things to still have live mascots, especially, I mean, Dubs is cool, but when you have a real live animal of that size, it's pretty wild to see.
We have a live tree also, so.
Yeah,
Separate.
But they're pretty. I think Colorado is pretty fun. I think a lot of the people I know who went there ended up being like California kids who were just kind of going away, and they partied pretty hard, less so with alcohol and more so with other stuff, in my understanding. But
Water.
They're it's pretty cool. I mean, pretty fun place. I think that beautiful spot too. Actually, one of my favorite Pac-12 stadiums. That anecdotally as well, just with the Flatirons right there. It's a fun spot.
Yeah, love Colorado. Ralphie's great. Would ride to extinction if I was allowed. Yeah, I think SCO Buffs is second place, only to Go Beavs for Pac-12 slogans. Big fan of their marching band too. They sound real good.
Nice.
That's what I got.
What about the Ducks?
I don't have much love for Oregon fans, to be honest. They tried to steal our coach. They're pretty nasty up in that stadium. I'll respect that they make a hell of a home field advantage for themselves, and I think Daddy Phil Knight's wallet makes their life look pretty good in terms of their apparel and their team, especially in the NIL era. But I feel a pretty big rivalry with them just internally. I know that it's been probably a little one way on a scoreboard, but I would say definitely not too much love between Cal and Oregon fans, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd say Oregon fans are pretty trashy, and I would apologize on their behalf if I had gone to Oregon, but I didn't, so I can just make fun of them. Here's the thing: Stanford tends to beat Oregon whenever they're good, and they tend to beat us whenever they're good, and it's a good relationship in that sense. It's a wonderful, toxic, almost Stockholm syndrome type relationship. I think my biggest gripe, though, is I think the people who are the Duck mascots, they take themselves a little too seriously. And it's like, you're a mascot. I know you're a good one, but you're just a copyright infringement of Disney. Let's be honest. And then secondly, I don't know if you've seen their campus, but like they spent $2 whole on the academic campus and 80 trillion, countries' GDPs on the athletic campus. And it is such a gross mismanagement of like the mission of a university that it's kind of vomit inducing. So that's my take. Also, their Twitter's lackluster.
Tim, what do you think about the Ducks?
Fans, it's annoying.
I'm trying to behave.
Yeah, there's no good
That's about
present.
as duck as you can get right there. I'm not saying a word.
Go for it, Tim. Let the hate flow through you. It's
I
great.
think he nailed it very apropos that where their money goes is clearly to help the student athlete, the athlete, not the student athlete part of that. I'd love to see the work they've done on the campus. So they always tell us how beautiful it is up there, but that's not what I hear. So.
All right. On another note, very different. What do we think about the Beavs?
Let's go Beavs.
Go Beaver.
Go Beavs.
Go Beavs. Is there anyone who doesn't like the Beavs on some
They're
level?
great.
I think they're hard not
Did
to
you guys
like.
Did you guys get to meet Benny and Bernice?
I have not, unfortunately. I haven't had the pleasure. So if anyone's out there listening who can make an introduction, would love to be introduced when they come down to Memorial Stadium this year. But I think to your point of anyone not liking them, at least for me, when I was at Cal, they went through such a tough run of coaching and just outcomes in all their games that it was hard not to root for them in some sense. For a while they had the beveled field, which was really cool. One of like the nice holdouts of college football where you can kind of get a different dynamic going, which is cool to see. But they always seemed like real nice folk whenever I'd go up to Corvallis for a game here and there, and they're just all really, really nice people.
Yeah, I agree. They're just wonderful. It's just hard not to like them. And when we were there, they were particularly bad, so they weren't a threat. But even still, like even if I were the Tree now and we played a very tough Oregon State this year, I still think I'd like them. They just seem like good people. It's a program that's been down on its luck and deserves like a chance. And they ran 27 rush plays in a row and came back 3 touchdowns to beat Oregon, or was it Washington? It was an incredible Oregon. What an amazing performance last year.
We had a rough time. I understand the fans were not as welcoming to USC last year as their reputation has. They wanted that win. All right, moving on.
It's interesting. Every time SC's last stop at a Coliseum, at a stadium, is going to be interesting. I'm sure when they go up to Strawberry Canyon, I'm sure we're gonna get their best. This year we head up there, so be ready for it, fans. If you're going traveling, it's gonna be spicy.
And probably
Always
true
is.
for USC, UCLA, Oklahoma, and Texas. I understand they're gunning for them. All right, Jack, talk to us about the arch rival.
Yeah, I'll echo a little bit of what Sam said, just in terms of I think there's a lot of similarity between all the California schools, really. But I think, like we were saying, just between those rivalries, the one big point of credit I will give them is Stanford has a wet campus, which is, as an 18-year-old kid in college, is an incredible thing. And even as an alumni, where you can actually have space to go tailgating, makes for a really fun rivalry game experience. So I will give them a nice kudo for all that. I will say, though, on the flip side, for a school that for the longest time when I was there, Cal, you had to buy your own student ticket. You didn't have a free ticket given to you. Stanford fans had free tickets and still couldn't fill the stadium. None of them even went to the game. They were all in the libraries. And they would leave fraternity and sororities. I would hear from friends, they would just leave doors open. People would go in and you could literally just walk right into a house. They just had no care in the world and seemed woefully unprepared for the harsh realities of life outside Palo Alto. But I think they're doing all right now.
Yeah, we used to laugh. Coming from USC, they have a Neiman Marcus across the street from the school. And we had like the trashiest, like nasty shopping center. And we were like, and they have Neiman Marcus or Nordstrom or whatever they had. Too funny.
No, you got me there. It's that's accurate. I'm not gonna lie. It's funny. Like I'm now I run Channel Tree, and I was the Tree. I'm one of I would put myself up there in like top 30 Stanford fans right now in terms of like games seen in the last 5 years and watched. And even I, my freshman year, went to 3 games and left at halftime because I needed to do homework. So,
all that to get an A they were going to give you
Sad.
just for being there.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully they'll give you guys something better for you.
Hopefully.
All right. Now it starts to get fun. Talk to us about the Bruins.
Baby Bruin. I mean, I think UCLA is always an interesting rivalry because people seem to forget they were not the flagship University of California school.
I knew you were going to say that.
I think there's always a little bit of interesting rivalry there because of that. And I will never not mention it, as Sam kind of mentioned. He's probably heard me say this a million times. But otherwise, though, I think pretty good. We tend to like UCLA more than USC for sure. I think just a little more familial atmosphere there, but definitely some tense rivalries, especially with a lot of the transfer stuff going on. I know they sold one of our best wideouts, J. Mike Sturdivant, down there now, which is unfortunate for us. But yeah, I think generally pretty good fans. I would say actually to counter Sam's comment about Arizona's dance team, I would actually put UCLA's dance team up there as one of the better ones. So
their high kicks aren't as good. I said it. Point your toes.
Not as good as the Dollies.
Not as well. Nobody's good as the Dollies. The Dollies.
Yeah. I think we asked America right now, a little poll: Dollies or Song Girls? Which one are going to win? I'm guessing they're coming down on our side. So
you graduate every fake canoe racer in the country, and so you're going to have like 8 times the populace in this poll.
Just gonna tell you, it's not even close. I've seen those Dollies up close, and it's not a good sight. That's all I'm gonna say.
Tim, I think
Tim, you take that back.
If I'm gonna take the gloves off,
no,
it's
Tim,
brutal. So
I'm talking about dance. We're talking about dance here.
Tim, I think the better response you could have had was mentioning that when he listed that he was in the top 30 of Stanford fans right now, and he left the game early, if 30 was where the list ended.
Very true. You guys would not believe.
I mean,
go ahead.
Wait, no, go ahead. We wouldn't believe what?
Oh, just how interesting it is, how hard it is to get some people to care about sports on campus, or how hard it was. I can't speak for the kids now.
To be fair, that came from a UCLA fan, and we get plenty of crap about how we can't fill our stadium either.
Yeah, fair enough. But your stadium's 90,000. Ours is 50,000.
It's also 90 minutes away, which doesn't do them any favors.
Good
One
point.
of the big hits for them for sure, I would say.
90 minutes in LA, that's a mile and a half?
Yeah, it's down the block. All right. I got to brace myself for this one. Dun, 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 dun.
Just before you get started, I just want to let you know we literally lap up the anger and tears from other schools. So please bring it on. It'll be fun.
It definitely seems to be what fuels y'all. I actually
We absorb it and it makes us stronger.
I'll give you a quick little story actually before I get into anything. I'll let Sam go. But Cal beats SC for the first time. I think it was like 9 or 10 years. I think back in 2018, I want to say. And I was at the stadium down for the game. And after having been so long since we'd finally pulled out a victory in the series, we were super excited. And I was kind of hoping to like see a sad SC fan or two and kind of rub it in that like Clay Helton was still around. Things weren't going too great. We were feeling pretty good about ourselves. And every SC fan was so damn gracious to me. The fact that we had finally won a game, it made it even worse. So I'll let Sam share his feelings, but just to your point of the fueling the hatred, even when things don't go well for y'all, you can't even give us a little bit of something.
Magnanimous even in defeat. I think that should be our slogan.
Well, during the Clay Helton years, there was a lot of defeat. Like,
yeah.
There's also, I think, a little bit of PTSD. We didn't know what was going on.
They were probably happy. They probably thought this was one loss closer to a new coach. So maybe that's why they were so giddy.
The Cal basketball approach.
Yeah, exactly. The Mark Fox approach.
We won 4 games 2 years ago, and one of those games was USC, and we got Clay Helton fired, and that was such a Pyrrhic victory. I loved Clay Helton. He was a brother to me, family even. I want to name my son Helton after him. And the L in his name really spells it all, you know? Yeah, USC, I don't know. I don't really think about him. So I'm just going
Even better. All right. What about the Utes? The new kids on the block. Winning games, going to Rose Bowls.
I got nothing but love for Utah, which I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but I've been a big fan of just everything they're doing out in that program. I think it's really cool to see what they're doing. I don't really think anyone dislikes them in the Pac. I don't know. Like you said, there's kind of not a native rivalry there. And I've always been of the opinion that Pac-12 will continue to consume itself and prevent ourselves from ever doing anything successful, because as soon as someone gets a little far out, like they might finally climb out of the cage, someone grabs their foot and yanks them right back down.
Baby.
So I think they're just kind of they're really exciting to watch. It's been fun to see him, especially Cam Rising. It's been cool to see the way he's been playing the last few seasons and coming back to support the team still, not just leaving.
On that note, there was a fake like BYU Twitter account that was trying to harass me with some stuff. And I laughed. I was like, they were like, oh, I went to Stanford, blah, blah, blah. And I just saw, like, I looked at their past tweets and all they did was rip on Utah. I was like, oh, you didn't go to Stanford. It's a BYU account. Nobody from Stanford hates Utah that much.
Nobody from Stanford cares about sports enough to hate another team other than maybe USC.
It's true. It's true.
That's funny. Swoop, really like just bad mascot design. It's not related at all to, it doesn't seem related to the team or the state. I really have issues with Swoop as a concept. I mean, I'm glad they don't have an Indian out there, but Swoop is just a bad plugin. Let's get our smartest people fixing that. But no, I'm similar to Jack. Nothing but love for Utah. I root for them every year when they play BYU in the Holy War. I don't know why I have beef with BYU. Maybe because their fans are horrible on Twitter. But and then I'll say this too: their Rose Bowl helmets and uniforms were some of the coolest and cleanest I've ever seen.
What's a Rose Bowl?
Look good.
Oh, sorry, you haven't heard of one of those.
Jack,
since the 50s.
Jack, it was before your time, maybe, I think, but it's the thing Mac Brown stole from you, and you should hate Texas for the rest of your life.
Already do.
Well, and actually, yeah, because you guys haven't gone. I mean, your chancellor was the Nobel Prize winning discoverer of plutonium last time you went, who might be a character in Oppenheimer.
It's been a little while. On that topic, it just makes me, the only thing that really makes me sad about it is all the old Blues out there who I know will probably pass away before they get a chance to see us back there, especially with the college football playoff restructuring. But yeah, it's been a little bit.
And hey, thanks. Erica Goldberg is a good friend of the show, a devout, awesome Hawkeye fan. Erica, Sam is very familiar with the infamous Farmers Only halftime show from Stanford. She says, bet we have a chip on our shoulders heading into the game with them this year. Hey, we want to beat them both. And Cal is actually USC's oldest rival, going back from before there was a UCLA. So it's gonna be a wild one at Memorial Stadium this year. Thank you, Erica.
Well, and
go ahead,
and
Zach. Right?
Actually, Stanford's number 2. I think it's like 108 for Cal. Stanford's like 102, and then it's UCLA that comes in third.
Wow.
For the number of games we played. But by the way, Erica, go Hawks! And you know what the thing is when we do play everyone this year, it's really gonna be like, I feel bad. It's like we're like the parents leaving our children behind. There's a level of like, I'm worried about them as we leave the Pac-12. I'm sure they'll be fine on their own.
Oh my God. Hey, we got an awesome super chat here. Gixxer Squid, who's an awesome USC alum. Thank you so much, Gixxer Squid. This is a huge help for the channel. Mark sends his thanks too, I'm sure. This is a great question, guys. He says, what advice do you guys have for future mascots? And Gixxer Squid, thank you. We appreciate having you in the community.
And thank you for rescuing me from this parent metaphor that was so poorly constructed and thrown in my face. I'm glad we've left that in the past. I think the tree is unique in a lot of ways. To become it, you've got to thoroughly embarrass yourself. But with that embarrassment comes this really awesome sort of self-discovery. What are your boundaries? What ways what talents do you have? What ways can you be charismatic? And you can sort of define what that looks like and means through your stunts. And what you arrive at is just what is like the most uninhibited version of yourself. And I think a mascot is best when they are just unapologetically shameless, especially with the tree. And it's this drunken tornado of silly, weird, goofy dancing. It is hypnotically ugly. And, I loved embracing that spirit and finding it within myself, and then using that sort of freedom that you find to make other people feel free and willing to deconstruct reality a little bit and live in this fantasy world. So my advice to other mascots really is just, take this license to break the rules, and really run with it. And if you can do that and really stay in the moment and share that with other people, and you're going to be a great mascot.
No, I think Sam put it well. I would just echo really the idea of just pushing the envelope as much as possible. Obviously, like we talked about, a lot of schools and times have changed, and not to get on a soapbox again about how different schools are now versus 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. But as much as you're able to kind of carve out a place of defiance in the role of your university and really capitalize on that and really bring that joy and excitement and unpredictability to students and to the athletics and to birthday parties, to whatever event you may be at, just really trying to make people enjoy and love the university a little more through your actions, and just have some serious fun with it, because it is kind of this unique hall pass to do pretty much whatever you want, have carte blanche. And even if you do something pretty crazy, no one's really going to get that mad at you, even at the school. I mean, I think pretty much every university too will have a couple alumni who will line up and foot the bill on any lawyers needed to get you out of any serious things. I know Cal always had a couple of law alumni who were willing to do pretty much anything for whatever OSKI did down at a big game. You had people willing to bail you out at a moment's notice or defend you in court. So really just find the people you can to support you, but just push the limits and really enjoy it.
That's awesome. Well, hey, thank you guys. And Gixxer Squid, thank you again so much for that. We really appreciate that. And Slap Happy, thank you for the super sticker. We appreciate that too. All right, moving on, guys. Heading up to the Great North, as my computer's being slow here. What about the dogs? Now, have you guys met Dubs?
I have met Dubs, thankfully. Very exciting. Sam,
I haven't. They wouldn't let me near him.
Legally speaking, not just because he looked freaking.
I think he would have tried to pee on me, let's be honest.
I have a younger brother actually who's at UW right now. I think they're a pretty fun place to be. They've got a heck of a program. I think they're another school that, for some reason, no matter how bad Cal might be playing, we always seem to show up and play pretty well. I've seen some great games that get finished in the wee hours in the morning in lightning, which is just some crazy experiences like that. The fans are pretty cool. I think they probably have one of the stronger alumni bases that students almost have to fight their way into games, which is pretty interesting to see compared to a lot of Pac-12 schools where students seem to be the lifeblood of a lot of it. But I think also the tailgating. What's not to love about being able to go drink on a boat before a football game and then walk right in, walk out during the game, drink on a boat some more, go back in. So they've got something figured out up there for sure.
Yo, so true. I love, drinking water on boats. Just sounds great.
It's hydrating.
Yeah. I lived in Seattle last summer while I was interning.
Through your eye hole.
Through the eye hole, yeah. You can put a flask anywhere in a tree. There's a million pockets that you sewed yourself, but I would never do that. Yeah, I feel the same way. Washington is
That's a brilliant idea, by the way.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's possible within science. No, yeah, I love Washington. I spent a summer in Seattle interning up there. It's just such a beautiful place and area up near campus, and like Jack said, the sailgating experience just sounds fantastic. And I didn't have a ton of interactions with the Washington fans, but I do remember when I was Tree, again, it was the year after the Rose Bowl year. We were number 7 in the country. McCaffrey's coming back for his junior season after the Heisman was stolen from him by East Coast viewers who don't watch late television. And we lost to Washington like game 3 of the season as number 7, like 45-6. It was such a demoralizing, destructive loss. So that is a core memory for me, unfortunately. So there's still a little bad taste in my mouth from the sports world, but generally I'm a fan, and they're Smarties. That's pretty cool.
Dubs is awesome. I want to meet Dubs someday. And thank you to Sergeant Pickles chiming with a bow down to Washington. All right. What about the Cougs? Another lovable team.
Sam, you want to take
Did
this
either of
one,
you guys
or-
go up to Pullman?
I have not been up to the Palouse. I really always wanted to, but it never seemed to work out for my end. But I really I think they're pretty fun. I think they're pretty wild as fans too, I would say. I will say, like when I was at Cal was the Mike Leach era, and rest in peace. But that guy was probably one of my favorite coaches to watch for everything he did off the field, if not as much for what he was doing on the field. He's just got such a big persona that I think, in my mind, will forever be intertwined with Wazoo. But their fans always seemed like a pretty rowdy bunch. And I don't know what you really do up in Pullman aside from drink and watch college football. So maybe that's what they're always so excited about, why they showed up in such force and everything. But they always seemed like an all right bunch to me.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, similarly, gosh, I love Mike Leach. He was so fun to be in the press conference rooms with and to hear him talk and lead a program. So, yeah, rest in peace to him. But, yeah, we love the Cougs. My mascot critique, I'm trying to bring those in a little bit. Elite name here, Butch T. Cougar. Butch T. Cougar. I mean, there's just so much comedy material there. I think there's a missed opportunity not to make Butch, like an elderly woman, to really like lean in on the whole cougar thing. I always thought of that when I heard that they were the Cougs. And we have a bar near Palo Alto called the Rosewood that has cougar nights on Tuesdays. So the Cougs were always on my mind. But yeah, we love them. I want to go to Pullman. I haven't been myself. I want to go to every Pac-12 stadium before Cal makes a Rose Bowl. So I only have 50 years left.
Maybe more. Well, that is the bunch. We got a question for you here. Will the Stanford band have a special presentation for USC and UCLA this year? What do you guys think?
Oh yeah, for leaving the big for the Midwest for the Rutgers conference. Yeah, I'm really excited for USC Rutgers games. I think those schools really fit culturally and in sort of like significance. They have the same number of college football playoff appearances since the playoffs inception. So there's just a lot in common between those schools. And frankly, to that point, UCLA and Maryland make a lot of sense. What is Maryland but Los Angeles of the East Coast? So yes, there will absolutely be a halftime show, I'm sure, about the Euclexit. I don't know how to. There's a Brexit pun in there somewhere, but I'm not sure what it's going to be, and I am not sure it's going to be as fiery as it might have been a few years ago. But at the end of the day, you've got 2 deadbeat parents leaving this wonderful family, and sometimes it's better.
Well, at some point, you just got to let the kids grow up on their own. You can only do so much for a conference before you just got to let them stand on their own 2 feet. We've carried you guys for a number of years. It's time for you guys to show us what you can do on your own. No,
it's a great point. That's why USC has been a national title contender every year since 2007. And that's why UCLA is the flagship program of California. I mean, they are the first school ever invented on the West Coast, I believe. So really, really exciting programs. I think of it like a mother bird.
All right, we got to
pushing
get
birds. Yeah, I'll stop. Sorry.
I love it.
I'm trying to behave.
All right,
I'm good.
we got Gigs. I love this. This is a riot. This is a riot for us. Gigs or Squid has a question, actually a serious question. And Sam, I saw some of your tweets when this happened. How do you guys feel though about USC and UCLA leaving the Pac-12? Was it surprising? Is it good to get rid of? What do we think?
Does the answer to your question change if we drag you along to the Big Ten?
I'll answer that in two parts, I guess. I remember when this happened, I was shocked. I remember calling Sam pretty much as soon as I saw the tweets last summer, being initially freaking out about it, just not knowing what was going on. I'm bummed. I think just like I was saying, for me, a big cornerstone of the Pac-12 was the original Pac-8 and the games and the rivalries that were played every year between the schools. I think just to lose that is a big bummer, and I think it's a little more emblematic of just the changing nature of college football in general, that we're losing some of that local rivalry and just some of the history between the schools at the cost of viewership and money, which I understand is a business. I understand they're optimizing for what they're optimizing for, but I think just as a pure fan perspective, I think there's definitely something lost there. And not that it's USC or UCLA's fault. I think they're just kind of chasing what everyone else has been for a little while, but it was definitely unfortunate to see us fall victim to it as a conference as well. That being said, if they were to bring us along with us, and if we could restore the Pac-8 out in the Big Ten Far West pod or whatever you want to call it, I think that'd be pretty fun. But it's definitely the end of an era, I think, for sure.
And to keep the metaphor going, it was more like for the past decade, USC, with a horrible car crash that was the Pac-12, we were in the hospital and we left you guys the house, and look what you did to the house, kids. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, it's fair. David Shaw did us no favors. He
did you no favor.
Larry Scott did us no favors.
Oh my God! Don't even let me.
Larry Scott did no one any favors.
He did himself favors.
No, he was really
Larry.
Tennis, guys, he was really good for tennis programs in the past. So let's not forget that.
I think we did win a couple national championships in tennis. You guys probably did too.
We win a national championship every year, so it's hard to keep track. 50 years running, I think.
Jackson, who's a friend of the show, has a question. Sam, you didn't get to answer your USC, UCLA.
Oh, yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on this. You probably saw both. I was sending my thoughts to the current tree for them to tweet off the tree account, and then also from Channel Tree. But I think it's horrible for college football. It's a money grab from the Big Ten, and who's owned by Fox, owned basically from the media rights deal perspective, and the SEC owned by ESPN. They just want to expand with the big programs, destroy these like local rivalries that have been around for 100 years. And it's just sad. It's just sad. I mean, I think one of the things that makes college football so great is you have Washington State versus Washington, that you have some of these like smaller athletic programs getting this local rivalry that contributes to this like 100-year oral tradition and folk legend. And we are tearing that up for like a 5% increase in viewership on ESPN. I actually don't want Stanford to get pulled to the Big Ten. It's been talked about as like a package with Notre Dame. I'd love to be associated with Notre Dame. They're fun to play every year. But like at the end of the day, the only way I want to go to the Big Ten is if the entire pack does, and then they just shove us over into the West, and then the championship game between the East and the West is just the Rose Bowl game that we used to have. For me, that's like the best case scenario for realignment. But generally,
kind of fun.
It'd be cool. We'd preserve the Rose Bowl because its sanctity is being lost. I really hate the move. I hate Texas and Oklahoma going and bolting to the SEC. No, I don't care about, Maryland, Illinois. I grew up an Illinois fan, and I liked the Big Ten growing up. My parents both went to Illinois, and when Maryland and Rutgers joined, I was like, this doesn't make any sense, but it was done for the New York media market. And anyways, I think it's bad for the sport. I also think there's like a really clear resolution to this if like the NCAA could just become a more powerful organization and just create schedules that that don't have to be dictated by two competing media companies. But that's all I got for now.
I like it. A question for Jack up there. What was it like celebrating? Well, I guess both of you guys, because it was both of you. Were you guys part of it all, or get to see it all? The celebrations of the 40th anniversary of the band is on the field.
Yeah, so I was there for that, and then I mean, just seeing. I mean, there was a whole bunch of fanfare and excitement around campuses. I think just across different events that went on leading up to big game week that usually did, but I think they were particularly more loaded last year with the anniversary. I think it's one of the coolest things in college football. That whole play is just super exciting. I mean, just seeing all the fanfare around it was really cool. But being able to see people like Joe Starkey, the announcer who went through, was calling the play, seeing all the people and the players who are on the field come back for some moments on campus, talking to folks at different events, was really cool just to see all that kind of lived out for something that what seems like by the quality of video could have been shot God knows how many years ago, but really, I mean, 40 years wasn't too long. So, I mean, I thought it was great, and it was capped off with the rightful way that the 40th anniversary should have ended, which is with Cal winning over Stanford at home. So no complaints from me about that whole situation.
The axe went home.
Did. Stayed.
I mean, his knee was down. Can we talk about it? And there were two laterals. Watching the footage, I have never been more like enraged, because like that was the origin of Pac-12 refs, right?
What was Mothershed there?
Yeah, they had exactly 12 brain cells operating during that game, and 2 of them left for the Big Ten, and it was just absolute nonsense. His knee was down. The videos confirmed it. I don't know why we bring this up every year. Good win for old Stanny.
It's true. Hey, I know we're running on time. Do you guys have a minute? Can we throw it open to some calls for if anybody wants to call in?
Yeah, sure thing.
And ask questions. All right. So if you have a question for OSKI or the Tree, give us a buzz. We'll put the link in the chat right now. Let me do that real quick, and or you can just use the QR code on the screen. Let me put in the call-in link. Or Tim, is the phone on or is the phone not on?
No, I wasn't. It might take a second to turn it on, but
okay. Don't worry about the phone. Don't use the phone, guys. Don't use the phone. The phone's not on. Oh, we got it there. But yeah, we just put the call in the chat. If you guys have questions, Chris, if you can pass that on to a special caller.
Yeah, no. If the phone's not working, then don't worry about it. I can ask by proxy. No, don't worry about it. The call's not going to go down. But I'll ask a question for OSKI while we wait to see if anybody else has some good questions. So I want to start off that I'm speaking on behalf of other Cal voices, but I think that there are a lot of people that misunderstand OSKI and his vibe. Mm-hmm. So the first part is maybe talk about that a little bit, and the second part is in terms of like the distinct march that you have, and how your hands go and whatnot. What's like what's the process behind that, and how long? Like, do you have like a boot camp, so to speak? And like it's like until you get this exactly right, you're not allowed to like go out and be mischievous and like march around.
Exactly. Yeah, no. So the way you actually get picked as OSKI is they just find the kid that has the weirdest walk. That's actually how I walk every day. It's a little unfortunate because it takes me a little while to get places, but no. As far as like the nature, I mean, so OSKI, it's kind of funny. So if you ever see the sweater, there's these 2 stripes, which is kind of more like a retro thing back to when these types of cardigans were more common. You'd have a stripe for each year. So OSKI is known to be the eternal sophomore, is kind of the joke. And so it kind of has that sophomoric nature and personality, like a little bit kind of like cheeky and coy, kind of playing games, doesn't take anything too seriously, but also is like still figuring a lot of things out, like kind of the classic college sophomore is the idea behind OSKI. As far as just the walk and everything, I think that's definitely you get coached through it a little bit, I would say. It's not as bad as it looks. I think a lot of it is kind of the suit itself takes care of some of the cumbersomeness and the awkwardness to walk. And frankly, the lack of visibility that I would have just from like my eyes down was hard to see, which is why depending on like people try and hand you a baby sometimes for a photo. And one of the last things you want, Sam and I can attest to this because we did some moonlighting while MIT and the beaver mascot there. And it's very difficult to see just about anything. You don't want to be holding someone's precious child. All that to say that awkwardness of the suit making it hard to see kind of actually makes it more intuitive to almost step oddly like that, where you're kind of tiptoeing around just so you actually know where you're going and not wandering yourself off a cliff or a staircase or something like that on accident. But
all right, we have a couple callers. We've got Gixer Squid. Hey, thanks for helping support the show tonight, and welcome. You are on with OSKI and the Tree.
OSKI Tree, my pleasure. Thank you. I'm currently bowing at home, so I appreciate all you do. Quick question, just to follow up. I know earlier we asked like what the selection process was, but selfishly, as student body president, class president, I want to know what inspired you to apply for this role, because it's just a unique position. So I just want to know what invoked you to want to serve and do this, because here you are today. We got Tony, we got Tim, and you're up for ridicule. You're up for inspiration, trimming trees. I just want to know what inspired you to want to do this.
It's a great question. I think I didn't quite know everything about the tree when I had decided to go to Stanford. I think the Facebook post I made where I chose Stanford, I used a picture of the tree, which was prescient, I guess, at the time. But later I just kind of found out my freshman year that the tree was supposed to be this like crazy, wild, weird person who was unfettered by the rules of society. And I grew up, I went to a small Christian school in Georgia. And then suddenly I'm in the Bay Area in California, and I'm just meeting all of these new, unique, completely different non-Southern people. And I really had sort of an identity question I was facing. I know this is like maybe not the answer you expected.
Hey, real quick, Tony knows me a little bit. As someone that went to a small Christian school, it resonates with me. So continue, please.
Yeah, I mean, there's just something about going to a place with just an insanely different group of people, people from other countries, people who are similar to you academically, but completely different from you socially and in their beliefs and in their practices and their religions. It was just interesting, and it was a culture shock. And so I was really just trying to figure out who I was. And in that exploration, I always kept coming up against my own like rules that I had created, when I was younger. And the tree really attracted me was attractive to me because it was this opportunity to like say, hey, you know what, all those rules I have, let's screw them. And let's just see what it's like to live completely freely and have, as I said earlier, like this license to do whatever. To be irreverent, to fight authority, and to be ridiculous. And also, I was like a really horrible theater kid. So those two things came hand in hand. And so Tree just made sense to me.
I think that the most memorable part of that whole response to me was where Sam said he would found trees attractive. I think for me, I would say I was...
Dendrophile.
Yeah. So I went to Cal, and like with how big of a school it was, definitely felt like kind of like a little lost in the sea of students and just people. I had been in like decently sized schools before, but I think just going to a large university, like anything like that, you definitely get thrown for a loop a little bit. And I had always been like involved in a school, either on like an athletic team or something. I definitely couldn't cut it at a D1 athletic level, and really wanted to be part of Cal still. That was something I kind of always had in the back of my mind of like, maybe I can try and figure out how to walk on like the cross country team or something, was something I had in my head my freshman year. didn't work out, wasn't going to be a thing, but and just kind of kept wanting to be around Berkeley more and more and have some connection to it beyond just graduating and being part of a couple clubs or organizations here or there. And I always had this deep connection to Cal football, and just being a football fan growing up, it really started to build my appreciation for the university. And I think just the mascot I saw as like a way to really deepen that connection to the school and kind of be a facilitator for how other people saw the school as well, and to share my love and appreciation for it with others, I think is something that like you'll universally find with mascots. Like, we're all a little weird. We all, like Sam were saying, I wasn't quite a theater kid, but you definitely get to do a lot of acting and playing around. You can't take anything too seriously. And I think that was a nice release from however serious you wanted to be about your recruiting, your academics, whatever else you were doing in school. It was licensed to just do whatever the heck you wanted and to have a good time. And that's what that the expectation was that, which was a very freeing in a certain way. So I think for me, it was just really being drawn to that freedom, and also just that connection to be a deeper part of the university and be part of what people think about when they think of schools so often.
Well, thank you both sincerely. Channel Tree, I encourage you, continue doing what you're doing. Jack, continue doing what you're doing. I will say I'm not pro Stanford, but Jack, you look like you're the president of the karate club. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
I like it, Jack. I like it.
But anyways, hey, thank you all for taking my call. Tony, Tim, always pleasure. And continue what you're doing, guys. Sincerely.
Thanks, Gixer. Fight on.
Thanks.
Great to talk to you.
Horns down.
Horns down.
I just do
all
that.
right. Hey, we got next up, we got Jackson Johnson, who's also another friend of the show. Jackson, you are on with OSKI and the Tree.
How's it going, guys?
Going great.
Howdy.
Channel Tree, I have a question for you, and this is a Stanford question. Well, a couple of them. One, what's your take on the Stanford president resigning?
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit earlier in the show. I was never completely sold on President MTL. I don't think he really embodied the ethos of the university that I saw when I was there. And I, through my friends who are still there and current trees or trees that came after me, it just seemed like the fun was leaving Stanford, and that's like whimsy and irreverence was being shut down. So I hope this ushers in a new era. I see it as like a really nice opportunity to reset and to like revive the health of the culture at Stanford.
And another question I got for you, Channel Tree, is the Troy Taylor hire. Is it going to be a continuation of the Jim Harbaugh, David Shaw era where you're like winning? Or is it going to be back to the Buddy Tevens, Walt Harris era?
Yeah, it's a good question. I hope we win some games. I think it was right to move off David Shaw. He, I think, just grew complacent and stopped caring about recruiting. And to me, that's proven in a year in which we got, I think, 22 3-star recruits and 6 4-star recruits, like all within 2 weeks this summer with Troy Taylor, an unproven coach. So, I think David Shaw was slipping and was becoming complacent. So I'm excited to have Troy in the first place. How do I think he's going to do? Hard to say, but I'll say this. He doesn't run a, trenches first, run it up the middle, or this is a chant we used to do in the band. Up the middle, pass, punt. That's David Shaw's offense. That is David Shaw's offense. So Troy Taylor's complicated West Coast air raid vibes about him, and I'm excited to see something different. If it fails miserably, it will be a more enjoyable failure than the absolute fizzle I've seen the last 3 years.
Well, I learned a fun fact about you tonight, that you were an Illinois fan at one point. That's pretty cool, Channel Tree.
That's right. Yep. My parents went to the 1985 Rose Bowl with Illinois. So yeah, I grew up a huge Illinois fan, mostly basketball and football. I walked through the Ron Zook era.
I bet you love that Juice Williams upset over Ohio State in 07.
Of course I do.
QB sneak on 4th and inches to clinch the victory.
I know. Incredible. Yeah, Aurelius Ben, wide receiver, totally underrated, Big Ten. It was a really cool year.
Oh man, Jack, I got a question for you.
Thank you, Jack. Okay, go ahead.
I was saying I got a question for Jack Sweeney. So I'm looking at the Cal defense. The scoring defense last season was 78. The rushing game was 63rd in the nation. The passing game was 122nd in the nation. And the total yards allowed per game were 110th in the nation. What can Cal do to get the defense up and going?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm definitely not a coordinator or coach by any means, so I'm probably going to say some basic things, but I think we've had some problems, I think, just on the defensive line in terms of depth, really defensive and offensive. Both sides of the ball for the line for us has been a problem for the past few years. I think we've been trying to bring some folks in over the portal and really get that together, but it's definitely been difficult, and I think just really doing the best we can to get our recruiting back for our secondary, which had been for quite a while was really up there in terms of the number of guys we had who were either getting to the league and just making really big plays at corner and safety. And I think we've got a good continuity here of just bringing back some quality linebackers that hopefully will be able to step up a little more experience. But I think a big thing is just getting a lot of keeping the injuries down, keeping guys in play, and just trying to handle our depth as best as we can for where we have some problems there.
I'm looking to see if Cal will get that defense up and going. I am ready to see them go nowhere but up. That's all.
Me too.
That's the only way, go up. And you were talking a little bit about like the last time you guys went to the Rose Bowl. That was in the 1958 season, but you lost in 59. But the last time you won the Rose Bowl was the 1938 Rose Bowl, where you beat this team, Alabama, from 1937. And you shared national championship with Pittsburgh.
Incredible.
But that was your second ever Rose Bowl win. Your first ever Rose Bowl win in California was the 1920 Rose Bowl against Ohio State from the 1919 season.
More than 100 years ago.
You'll be back. You'll be back.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
If you thought Matt Brown screwed you over in the 04 season, wait until there was a playoff era. Y'all would have gotten screwed out of a playoff spot for sure.
We've got a new dad next. Anything else, Jackson?
I want to ask Channel Tree and Jack Sweeney two quick questions. One, what's it going to be like seeing USC and UCLA for the final time for the foreseeable future? And secondly, for those who want to talk about Cal and Stanford, where can everybody find you?
I would say bittersweet to your first question. Love to hate them, hate to see them go. As far as where to find me, I'm not really online. I've got a LinkedIn. That's about it. So if you can find me there with my ambiguous Irish name, good luck. But otherwise, not too much for me. Sam takes all my PR requests.
That's right. You know what? I will happily dox him on my Twitter if you're interested. Channel Tree's sports website. We cover Stanford. We're mostly on Twitter. We also post our articles to Reddit and Facebook, but that's like a Stanford Reddit forum. But yeah, if you're interested in that, but I think our Twitter is probably our most interesting content and most consistent. Excited to play USC and UCLA one last time. It is bittersweet. The Pac's better when we're all together, and it's just a shame that they're going to get $20 million more a year, $10 million more in expenses, so net $10 million each a year to play Iowa
on national television.
That was on purpose. I picked Iowa on purpose. Yeah, no, I mean it's just that's all.
Well, there's always going to be the band is all over the field from the Cal-Stanford rivalry. So
thank you, Jackson.
Thanks, Jackson.
thank you for having me on the Pac-12 chat show, and I am looking forward to reading some more Stanford stuff to pick my brain from Channel Tree.
Please do.
Hey, they're smart folks. You should. Thank you.
I plan to.
All right.
Thank you.
Tony, please tell me, Tony, that the new dad is not Jeffrey. Is that? Just tell me that right now.
No, we have three more quick callers because I know we're longer than we expected. We have three more great folks. The first one, I want to give a shout out to friend of the show and devout Husky, Sergeant Pickles. Go Dogs! And just found out today, and he announced it on Twitter, so we're gonna say it here. New twins are on the way. Congrats, Dad.
Wow, congratulations, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna have 3 kids, 2.5 and younger. It's gonna be quite the experience. So, I guess I'll make it quick. You got other people lined up. What popped into mind is I remember, if everyone remembers, the famous Mike Leach, rest in peace to him. He did the mascot power ranking brawl showdown where who would beat who. And he concluded that he couldn't make a decision because the Sun Devils may have mystical powers, but he think Butch the Cougar might have a good shot against either of the Bear teams. I want your guys' breakdown on that.
Yeah, it's an all-time press conference soundbite. I love it so much. I actually, when I was you can probably Google this, but when I was at Stanford, I did a similar list, but not by who would win in a fight, but by which mascots were like the horniest or the most sexually viable. So if you're interested, that's probably on the internet somewhere haunting my future job opportunities.
I don't know if I want to explain that search history.
Yeah, it's totally fair. Private mode.
I feel like Wilma would be up there.
Yeah, I think I made the same threesome comment now that I think about it that I did here today. But to answer your question, I think people really underestimate the size of like a fully grown grizzly bear. I mean, those things are massive and powerful. Those paws can knock some stuff up, and they can climb trees, which is why I'm not giving it to me. Now, if this is the Lord of the Rings universe where a tree could be an ent, I'd give myself a little bit more credit.
You're a smart guy. I'm going to have a bone to pick with you. Grizzly bears can't climb trees. Black bears can.
Grizzly bears can't climb trees?
Nope.
I've been lied to this whole time.
You have? Come on. You're a smart guy.
Allegedly. All right. I faked my way on to Stanford admission through the sailing team. So
all good. I never went to college. I just know random facts that help me in pub trivia.
That's great. Well, good for me to know. Well, then I take it back. Tree wins every time.
Well, and I might have once photoshopped OSKI and Joe Bruin into the Cocaine Bear movie poster.
You did do that.
I did do that.
Well, you got to pick between the two though, based on vibes alone. Which bear takes the crown then?
Actually, I'm sorry. I just Googled can grizzly bears climb trees, and az-animals.com says yes, grizzly bears can climb trees. So it's up for debate now. I'm back
up for debate
now.
Maybe that's just the common knowledge hiking thing I was lied to about. Made me feel better about hiking in Montana.
Yeah, it's scary. But yeah, I'd give it to the bear. What do you think, Jack?
I would give it to Cal. I mean, I think
for those who doing UCLA's bear. To be clear, I'm not picking.
Yeah, but it's SoCal bear versus NorCal bear. You got to pick. That's tough.
I don't know. I mean, you gotta, if you Google what a Bruin is, I think there's a fundamental difference there that will sway the favor of how the energy might be going in that fight.
Gotcha.
I don't know what I can say on here or can't say, but for folks who are interested, give a nice Google. As far as overall who would win, I might put money on Swoop. I mean, something that can fly is pretty advantageous, I would think, and I would give my money on an eagle over a duck just about any day. But I think the Sun Devil was an interesting toss-up that Mike put out there. So holding that outside, I might put my money to Utah on that one.
That's a good shot. Funny enough, the Ducks, I think, are dead last by any measure.
Yep.
Ralphie could be a battering ram. I could see that one working maybe if you get first charge in. That's about it.
Yeah, actually, we're kind of sleeping on Ralphie, but on Grizzly over Ralphie.
Yeah, Ralphie's a force to be reckoned with. Oh, too funny.
All right, guys.
Hey,
well, I'll leave you to it. I know there's other people, but good talking to you. Go Dogs.
Congratulations. Go Dogs.
Thank you. I'll need the
Grass
sleep.
pickles.
You're gonna need a lot of sleep for several years.
Very much so. Talk to you guys
Thanks,
later.
Sergeant Pickles. All right, next up we got Will ND. Notre Dame fan. While we've got Will here, you got to give us your scoop on the Irish.
Jack, you're more Irish than me. You should answer first.
Oh gosh, I mean, so I went to Notre Dame for the first time last season when Cal played Notre Dame at Notre Dame.
Oh yeah, we snuck away with that one.
Did sneak away. I would say, I will say in terms of fan bases, interesting crowd, but they did have some of my favorite T-shirts ever. I saw, it might have actually been Cal fans at Notre Dame, but actually no, it was a Notre Dame fan. They had made sexy OSKI T-shirts, and it was like OSKI's head on like a cheerleader, like a cartoon cheerleader. I didn't get myself one of those shirts, but it was definitely one of my favorite things I had seen. Apparently they did that for like whatever team would come to visit. They'd kind of do something funny like that each time.
Mm-hmm.
And hold on, right before we get to Will's question, who Will's a friend of the show, he'll forgive us for this. I thought this was a great question from the chat for you guys, from Gixxer Squid, wondering which stadium is actually the best accommodations for you guys. Like which stadium treats you guys the best?
I don't know if anywhere, this might sound like a hot take. I don't know if anywhere treats you well. I think you kind of just find yourself a supply closet or something.
It's usually pretty trash. It's worst at Cal or vice versa at Stanford, because for big game after like I think 20 years ago, some rugby player like tackled the tree. They both had to go to the hospital. They don't let us out for the last 5 minutes of the game. So they like lock us up in a room. So it's I'd say pretty bad all around. But shout out to Kansas State. They put me in a room with a lot of cool merch, and I put it in my tree's mouth, and I went home with it. Allegedly.
Allegedly. Will, welcome to the show. You are on with OSKI in the tree.
So I have to ask OSKI this. Were you there when Sonny Dykes was at Cal, Jack?
I was for all 4 of my years were Sonny's years, yeah.
So what were your thoughts on Sonny making it to the playoff? Like, were you happy for Sonny? Were you like, why couldn't you do better at Cal?
Yeah, definitely a little bitter in the sense of like there was some jealousy for sure. He seemed to figure it out in one season right away at TCU. I was happy to see him do well. I mean, I think we were happy with where our program was in terms of coaching right now, and I had no bad blood for who Sonny was as a coach and everything he did. I will say, I think there was a lot of really a really incredible foundation that he unlocked, but I think Gary Patterson had built over the years with just everything that he had been putting into TCU in terms of the recruiting and the defense and everything that he had built in there, that Sonny really brought another level to with the offense. But it was definitely a little, for sure, bittersweet to anyone to see a team get all the way that far. And meanwhile, when Sonny was our head coach for his first year, he went 1-11. So, you know, bit of a trade-off there.
Tough.
Mm-hmm. So, Mr. Tree, were you at any of the ND Stanford games? I have emotional damage from the 2015 game. I do.
Yeah, so that is probably, people ask me, what is your greatest?
That's probably in the top 5 most painful losses, honestly.
Totally fair. People ask me best games I've ever been to or best sporting moments. Obviously, 2016 Rose Bowl, 30-0 at halftime on Iowa. I'm going to keep hammering Iowa here because as an Illinois and a Stanford fan, it's fun. But then the Notre Dame game in 2015, we win on a last-minute kick by Conrad Ukranopa. I was in the band. That was the year I joined the band, and then 2 months later, I became the Tree, something like that. Oh my gosh, that was just the most electric. And I almost didn't go to the game. It was Thanksgiving. I was back with my family in Atlanta, and my dad was like, no, you got to go. This is like college experience, go. And what an incredible game. Anyways, you guys actually outnumbered us in the stadium, which was hilarious.
Oh yeah.
Notre Dame travels better than we can travel from our dorm rooms to the stadium. But yeah, that was an insane game. Yeah, and for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, I think In the fourth quarter, there were like 6 lead changes, and including 2 last-minute drives that ended on like a 50-yard field goal. Both teams kicked field goals like with seconds left, but Stanford got the last one, and then that's what got us into the Rose Bowl, or that's what got us into the Pac-12 championship, and then to the Rose Bowl that year.
Really, you want to? Oh, Tony, we lost Tony.
No, I booted him out. Don't keep going. I got rid of Tony. You guys carry on.
I mean, I don't know. That was the most talented Notre Dame team I think I've seen. The coaching was bad on the defensive side, so like he like made us tear our hair out like watching his defensive play calling. But I mean, that Stanford team was also very good. Like I'm not saying
that's the best Stanford team I've ever seen.
We didn't lose to a bad team, but it's just like the amount of talent on that team. There's so many of those guys are in the NFL, and I mean, to be fair, we did have a backup quarterback that year, Malik. I love Malik. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks. Just as a tremendous person, has his own YouTube show, so I love him. But
great.
Yeah, I have some attachment to that team because of the Showtime documentary they did. But yeah, so do you guys think that the coaches that you have in place, do you think Justin Wilcox can get over the hump and like and Troy Taylor? Do you guys feeling hopeful with them that you can eventually get back to where Cal was in prime Tedford and maybe back to Harbaugh and Shaw, or at least be a consistent bowl team?
Well, I think the great thing is if Wilcox doesn't work out and if Troy Taylor does work out, and what would usually be a nightmare for scenario for most schools, we can just welcome Troy Taylor to come home and bring Cal back to glory very quickly there.
And we'll take Mark Madsen, and it'll be a fair trade.
I'm hopeful, though. I think Wilcox is a really fantastic coach. He's got the right mentality, especially for Cal. He's trying his best to build the right staff he needs, and it's definitely – we'll see what happens, but I've definitely got some good faith for him.
And like I said earlier, I'm excited to see what Troy Taylor can do. I don't know what we're going to be as we exit the golden era. Transfers have absolutely decimated Stanford. I mean, I don't think before in basketball, we had never had a non-grad transfer ever until like this year. And it was kind of an unremarkable transfer, not a game changer. Cal, I don't know if I'm pointing at Jack, but in my perspective, I am. Cal gets a new coach and they now have 12 new players. Like, the transfer portal has created a world in which schools with no academic standards, like University of California, Berkeley, can just delete all of their players and insert an entirely new lineup. And Stanford can't do that. And it's the same on the football side. USC last year, their quarterback was a transfer. Their coach was a transfer. Their 2 running backs, it was Austin from Stanford and Travis
Morgan.
So your two running backs, RB1 and RB2, also transfers. Your best wide receiver, Pitt, also transfer. We're creating a world in which, one, NIL, you can just throw bags of money at transfers. And then, anyways, Stanford's at a disadvantage. And we've got a new NIL program that's starting that's trying to like lean on business connections and like real world training and other things that other schools might not be able to provide. Because we can't compete monetarily. So that's interesting. But like this next 5 years is going to be interesting. Like, can we compete in the transfer portal era? Can we compete in an NIL era? I think we're going to do better than most people think we're capable of. But at the end of the day, like it's just a big question mark. So I don't know. I don't know what the ceiling is.
It's got to be hard finding millionaires and billionaires from Stanford. So I wish you guys luck.
It's got to be hard finding millionaires and billionaires from Stanford who care about sports.
Okay,
I think this is the tough part, and they just don't.
You can't get Larry and Sergey to be like, you know what? Let's win a national championship.
You'd hope, but no, they don't care.
Just dipped into the endowment like you did with memorabilia when no one's looking.
Hey, I'm all for pulling from the endowment. I don't understand where that money's tied up, but like, let's get this thing going.
Well, I laughed during all this ridiculous, stupid, like Big 12, Pac-12 stuff. Like in the old days when the Pacific Coast Conference split apart, the UC regions Regent Hurst, who controlled half of the media of the West Coast, and Regent Chandler, who controlled the other half, ensured that like the media end was taken care of. And so with some of this, I've been like, wow, wouldn't it be nice if Stanford could tap in Google and YouTube to like get rid of some of this?
Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah. Again, like Stanford's got some really interesting alumni, but they don't care about sports, and a lot of the students don't care either. So what can you do? It's really hard to like mobilize an NIL base. Frankly, most of our donors give to the academic departments. All of the money I've given, the small amount has gone straight to the band. So, we all have our things we pick. So.
That's good. It's good. It's going to a good home.
I feel like there's some, and I don't remember the specifics, but there's like some Andrew Luck story, right? About how he's like walking on campus, like either like Saturday morning or it's like, maybe it's like Sunday afternoon or something. And he like sees someone, he's like on his way to study or whatever. And like some guy doesn't know, like have any idea who he is. And it's like, oh, what'd you do yesterday? And it's like, some huge like game they had.
Yeah, it sounds exactly right. I'm painting like a really negative picture. Like there are sports fans there, but yeah, they're super fair weather. And like, again, I left to do homework my freshman year before I became, a serious convert. But yeah, it's so,
I have no idea about fair weather fans. I don't know. I have no idea what you're talking about, but yeah.
Oh, just Google Clay Helton. You'll find everything you need.
Clay Helton with the L.
My boy, Clay Helton.
Too funny. Will, anything else?
No, I just think you guys are great representatives of your universities, and it was great having you on the PAC show. You guys were awesome guests, so thanks for coming on, supporting the show.
Thanks, Will.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, as a parting story, we played Notre Dame in women's basketball my last year as Tree, like my last week as Tree, and I painted on my butt Rudy was only okay, and then like 2 stars, and I just like I would moon Notre Dame fans. It was like the angriest I've ever seen them.
That's great.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. It's funny.
We have one more question here from another friend of the show, Jeffrey. We'll just bring him in anyway. Hold
Jeffrey,
on, we need to move somebody
you're
out.
not waiting a child, are you?
Well, I'm going to put you in the back room.
Okay, go ahead.
Jeffrey, you are on. You are our last questioner here. We're keeping him over. You're on with Jack in the Tree.
Yeah, it's great to be on. I will have to say one thing, though, real quick. Tim and Tony, it's kind of nice that the Pac-12 chat show, if we're talking about Cal and Stanford, it's not just USC. So that's kind of nice. And I will say one more thing, one more joke, and then we'll actually get to the serious stuff. Cal Stanford last year should not have been on the Pac-12 network. I couldn't watch the game, man, the play. It's like I wanted the anniversary of the play. They're going to put that game on the Pac-12 network. I'm like, I can't even watch it. It was terrible. That was a travesty. But on a serious note, I guess first for you, Jack, talking about, Justin Wilcox. I know a lot of people, when he was hired at Cal back in 2017, thought that he was going to work out, really well, that Cal was going to get it turned around, back in the era that, the Tedford era with, Aaron Rodgers, all that kind of stuff. They had a decent moment with Jared Goff, but wasn't great either. Do you think that Justin Wilcox can fix it? I know this has already been asked, but I mean, do you honestly think in your mind that he will fix it, or will he get fired at the end of the day?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm probably the wrong person to ask this because I tend to be a bit of an eternal optimist. But I mean, I've met Justin. I've been lucky to meet him a couple times here and there, and had some conversations with him. And I think he is the right guy for the job. I think Berkeley's a tough place to be successful as a coach for like Sam kind of mentioned. I mean, we have the same problem with a lack of student support. There's not a huge academic faculty support. A lot of them would rather we kind of disband the athletic program and put the money into research, since it does so much for the school and just the recognition there. Let alone, I think the academic standards for both schools are pretty hard to get students in, and really just the city of Berkeley, I think, especially during the COVID years, was especially difficult, and I think hamstrung a lot of the early progress that we were kind of making, set us back to square one. So I do think Justin is the guy to figure it out. I think he's been doing a lot of good stuff, but I think it's not necessarily a school where it's super easy to pull things together overnight compared to some other places where there might be a little bit more of a favorable climate there.
Yeah, that makes sense, 100%. Yeah, Erica's comment is classic. What does Indiana's mascot look like? I saw the bison comment. It's like that was in the 60s. They don't have a mascot. So you guys would not be able to be at Indiana if you wanted to be, the mascot, which, I think that's really cool that both of you guys are. It's awesome. To you, Mr. Tree, I think, talking about Stanford, you got obviously Troy Taylor. Were you surprised they hired him? Or were you expecting someone else to get hired, besides, like, who did you think they would hire versus him? And, were you surprised he was hired?
I was weary, because you're hiring a Cal coach that could potentially try to jump ship to a program that's near and dear to his heart. Really, what's tough about hiring a coach at Stanford is, like, if they have success and they're a revenue sport, chances are they'll go to a bigger program. Right. That's just the reality of it. Non-revenue sports, you can enjoy a nice lifestyle in, expensive Palo Alto and have a recruiting edge over other schools. But revenue sports, you might as well go to Michigan and be Jim Harbaugh or go to the Niners, whatever. So I was wary. I thought Jason Garrett was going to get it. He interviewed for the job and he was so aggressively mid for the Cowboys. I was like, this is right up. This is David Shaw part 2. I was ready for it. I was bracing for it. And I think we lowballed him. And he said, no, I think that's what happened. That's what my sources said. But my sources aren't as good as Tony's, who knows everything somehow.
Do you think that if the transfer portal, hadn't have got crazy like it is now and NIL hadn't have got crazy like it is now, do you think that David Shaw would have, basically continued coaching Stanford for a lot longer, maybe been able to retire? Do you think that he would have gotten fired anyway? Eventually,
I think like 2 or 3 wins a year were probably due to, like, transfer issues or NIL, maybe. So, like, I could see David Shaw. I think he got complacent at the end of the day, and to me, the proof is in Troy Taylor, and I said unproven because he hasn't coached a Power 5 job, and that's a jump, it's a risk, right? But he's gotten so many recruits for us and made us nationally relevant for the 2024 season, and he did it all in like 2 weeks. And we're beating out Auburn and UCLA, and we're not beating out Bama or Ohio State, but we're beating out, like, significant, interesting college football programs. To me, that was just proof that, like, Shaw had not been trying the last couple of years. So I think without all of those other forces, maybe we're going 6-6 and he'd stay a couple of years more. He is, at the end of the day, the winningest coach in Stanford history. And he brought us 2 Rose Bowls, a separate Rose Bowl appearance. And at the end of the day, he's also just, like, a really good guy. I don't think he and I have personalities that really mesh. We're not going to go to dinner, but he's just, like, a good quality person. So I think he would have stuck around longer.
Yeah, I was really sad to see David Shaw go. I really liked him, but it is what it is. This is the last question for both of you guys. Would you guys want Cal and Stanford to join the Big Ten? And do you guys think that they will join the Big Ten or stay in the Pac-12?
Do you want me to answer it? I'm just kidding.
What is your answer, Tim? Let's hear it.
I think that of all schools, Stanford and Cal would absolutely fit in the Big Ten, just what the Big Ten is, and what the Pac-12 might have used to be. And I think now that UCLA has moved over, USC's moved over, it just seems like almost Cal and Stanford now seem like they're fish out of water. No, Washington's there too, but I think there's a lot of great athletics, obviously at Stanford and at Cal, and especially the non-revenue sports you talked about. And academics obviously would fit in very well in the Big Ten. And I think that both schools might jump in the situation because it is the Big Ten.
So I studied under USC's longtime president, Stephen Sample, and knew him. And he talked a lot about sports. I think he would have been very excited about the Big Ten, but I do not think he would have let Cal or Stanford out of his sight.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't. I know what he thought about Cal and Stanford, and he wanted to beat you guys in, like, everything. but he would not have let you out of his sight. He would have brought you along.
Well, I kind of hope they go to the Big Ten. I mean, really, at this point, since everybody's going to the Big Ten or SEC, might as well.
But we didn't get your answer yet. I'm sorry. We're chiming in. We're answering Jeffrey's question, not the people that it's for.
No, you're good. I would have a similar feeling about. I know I said earlier. I kind of hope we go if it does. Push comes to shove. I also think there's just with the legal entity of the UC system. I think Cal and UCLA are a little more intertwined than most folks might pay attention to. That if the opportunity does show up, there might even be less so of a if Cal wants to go, but more the fiduciary duty of the UC regents having to push them in, because it's if there is that financial outcome that is a net positive for them, it's kind of what they have to do just by their nature. And I know there's been some pressures going on in the past of trying to keep the two together, and I think it will continue to be part of what goes on behind the scenes, at least for Cal in that whole situation, should the opportunity arise.
And the courts always want to see that reconciliation and save you that calimony, UCLA. So there you go. Right?
I don't know what you're talking about. We don't have any money. They already get subsidized by the state. They don't need to get subsidized by the school that they call like the non-flagship, even though we're ranked higher.
We'll take your money.
And hey, Stanford struck gold taking a shot at a coach that coached at USD and Jim Harbaugh. So you never know. You never know what could happen. It could be the right coach. Troy Taylor, like Tony loves to say, I'm not sure you guys are going to finish there, but you guys are pulling some top recruits, guys that are on the target list for a number of programs across the country. So I think he's doing his first splash is for first look at him. It looks like it's really
promising.
solid.
No, I agree. Yeah. It's promising. It's more than I could have asked for. And it also, I feel like, again, is a nice reminder or indictment of the previous administration's last few years, where we were begging for a 4-win season after consecutive 3-win seasons. So, yeah, I said it before, but I hope we stay. I like the Pac-12. I like the history behind it. The only way in which I want to leave is if we can have this massive Big Ten that includes all the Pac-12 and all the Big Ten, and then we just, again, regionalize it within. I mean, it's not the Big Ten; it's the ESPN or the Fox News conference, right? So we'll be under Fox, and then Fox makes a West division. That's the only way I'd like it, so that we get to maintain some sort of purity in the regionality of it all. If not, then screw it. Stanford, Cal, Northwestern, Vandy, Duke. Let's restart the Dandelion League from years and years ago. Or what was
Get Wake in there.
Magnolia.
Get Wake in there.
Magnolia League, yeah. That's my red pill response.
I kind of like the Dandelion League better, to be honest.
It's better. I agree. It's better.
You know what? I feel like with how the Pac-12 presidents have managed this media rights, we might as well be the Dandelion League. Like picking dandelions in left field.
They're going to figure it out in a year, okay? So give them
Yeah, exactly. They got time. Who knows? Maybe they'll have it figured out this week. Hey, guys, we have gone way over. I want to give an absolute huge thank you to Jack and to Sam. We've got OSKI. We've got the tree. This was a lot of fun, and this was really special. I think everybody here watching tonight got a really great feel for the schools, and we are honored to have you guys. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having this. This was fantastic.
Yeah, super fun. You made us feel far more important than we deserve. And this is a long time coming. We've been promising to get on here for a couple months now, and school made it really difficult. We were taking shifts as MIT's Tim the Beaver, and that just.
Wait, did you ever see Tim? Did you ever meet the Tim the Beaver?
Oh, we did it a couple times actually.
You did it a couple times.
Just for
together on it.
It's a hilariously lower key.
Okay. I believe it.
We've been busy, so thanks for accommodating us and getting us in here.
Any final thoughts, everybody?
No, I would really just like to say that you guys are awesome. I mean, talking to you guys, I mean, it's always great to talk to, different type people in the sports world. And I mean, you guys are great representatives of your university. And I really would like to see Cal and Stanford win a lot more, whether they're in the Big Ten or in the Pac-12, for everybody, but especially you guys, because again, you guys are pretty cool. That was a lot of fun talking to you guys.
Oh, thanks so much.
You're welcome. And I definitely can't wait for football season.
Oh yeah.
Great.
Yeah, Tony, let me know. I'll hook you up with the current tree once she has a couple games under her belt. You can.
Oh, that'd be fun.
That'd be a third tree. We got some more OSKIs in here, Jack. That's gonna be our third tree.
Well, OSKIs are secret. Trees are public knowledge. We have our names are on Wikipedia. OSKIs are stored in next to the Ark of the Covenant from the Raiders of the Lost Ark. All right.
Thank you guys so much, everybody. Give a round for OSKI and the tree. Thank you guys. And thank you for joining us here on the Pac-12 Chat Show. We'll see you guys next week with a breakdown for Media Days. Bye on everybody.